Hello, this is Paul Chek. Welcome back to my little mini-series, How to Survive in a Modern World. Today, part 3, Establishing a Healthy Base Rhythm. Establishing a healthy base rhythm may be one of the most important elements of keeping yourself healthy, and it's something that I'm constantly having to work on with everybody from tired, exhausted business executives to world-class athletes to moms, kids, etc. Much of the information that I'll share with you today you can find in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, and my multimedia ebook, The Last 4 Doctors You'll Ever Need, How to Get Healthy Now. Okay, so what I'm going to do today, as effectively as I can without having you in my holistic lifestyle coaching program at level 1, 2, or 3, is give you some information that's important to understand that you can use quickly and efficiently. I'm going to orient you to my diagrams. This diagram right here represents the seasonal cycle. So to begin with, this is yin, that's yang. Remember, yang is hot and expansive. So spring is yang rising, it's getting warmer and warmer. As the energy rises up, flowers grow, trees grow, we all get more active and more work gets done. So spring is the rising of warmth, summer is peak warmth or work activity, which I call here the action phase, where spring is the planning phase. Fall is when we're starting to cool down, the energy's starting to turn back into the earth. That's time to harvest and celebrate. Winter is when we should rest. That's when nature goes into her anabolic cycle or seemingly rest cycle. She's active down below but relatively inactive on the surface. Now know that the 24-hour circadian cycle mirrors the annual seasonal cycle, and this is very, very important because if you make mistakes here at the circadian sleep-wake level, you're going to magnify those circadian stressors. So if you miss an hour of sleep 3 nights a week, and you do that 50 weeks of the year, that's 150 hours of sleep that you lost, and that adds up to be quite a huge stressor on the body. So now we also have to look at this. This represents Dr. Movement or the fire principle. This represents Dr. Quiet or the water principle, yang yin. Happiness, what is my dream? What are the choices I'm making? Diet represents what am I shooting my arrow at to eat tonight, which means not only what am I shooting my arrow at to eat, but Dr. Happiness points the arrow of consciousness at whatever the task at hand is, the schedule, the activity, etc. So just like Dr. Happy would have to draw the bow under his own power and point it at something, Dr. Happy is an expression of the larger cycle of the environment, the sun, the earth, the moon, the cosmos. So the individual mind says, I want to work out, I want to eat, I want to do. So each time you draw the bow back, you extract power that you've accumulated from the larger environment around you. And to the degree that you're in harmony with this cycle, the power comes easy. Just like when a surfer is riding a wave, there's minimal effort. But if the surfer wants to turn and go against the wave, the surfer has to power that by themselves because that's not what the wave is doing. So the first thing we got to do is remember that these annual cycles represent the natural expansion of yang energy and contraction into yin that drive nature itself, which we're a part of. The lunar cycle is very influential on the hormones of the body, more so in the female than the male, but it's important to remember that the lunar cycle affects us both male and female. And when men reach andropause, the equivalent of menopause, they're often more influenced by the lunar cycle in my experience. But these cycles are always involved in all of us. Circadian is your 24-hour cycle. Now your 24-hour cycle, you go back up here, you see that the annual cycle shows up here, morning, noon, afternoon, evening. Morning is the time when you're supposed to plan and get ready for your day and make sense of it so you don't go out and be like a chicken with its head cut off. Summer is when you're in the action phase. The afternoon is when you harvest what you did for the day, get ready to go home, eat dinner, and celebrate in preparation for rest. So that same annual cycle must be effectively adhered to in the 24-hour cycle, or the further you deviate, the more you choose not to be in harmony with the massive cycle of quiet and movement. So your circadian cycle is your sleep-wake cycle. Now in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, I show how the hormones flow with the rising of the sun, peak activity, and the setting of the sun. So in your base rhythm, one of the most essential things to do is establish meal times, because our meal times have a huge influence on blood sugar regulation, as do what we eat at each meal and the proportions of each food we choose for our individual metabolic needs. If you do not have adequate food with enough frequency to support your blood sugar, you will have a huge increase in sympathetic activity, because insulin is a major stimulator of the sympathetic nervous system, or the fight, flight, or freeze nervous system, if it's elevated or depressed. Elevated blood sugars can damage the nervous system and actually kill nerve cells, which is why diabetics' fingers and toes turn black and fall off. That's one of the reasons. And then if you have low blood sugar, you can go into a coma and die. So naturally here, if you're not managing your base rhythm at the level of meal times and all the things I've just mentioned, you already have a massive amount of stress that could lead to disease, anxiety, depression, and all sorts of things right to begin with. So base rhythm rule number one, establish meal times. And if you're not someone that wants to eat 3 meals a day, establish the meal time and use it for something that's nurturing for you. You need to establish periods in your day where you have yin energy accumulation and cool down, so that you don't burn yourself out. Once you got your meal times established, then you're going to need to go to your activities. Your activities then would be placed between the meals. So you might say, well, I want to work out in the morning. You might even want to work out before breakfast. That's okay. Wherever you want to exercise, just know that once you get to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, if you start elevating stress hormones with exercise of any intensity, the half-life of cortisol is 4 to 6 hours. So if you start going to the gym progressively after 3 o'clock, you could find it's very hard for you to wind down at night. So you always want to do your best to get any hard training done by 3 o'clock. In other words, don't go into the gym any later than about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, in my experience. Okay? When it comes to your activities, you must remember I before we always, as I show in PPS Success Mastery Lesson 1 and all the 12 PPS lessons at ppssuccess.com if you're interested. If you don't take care of yourself, and your energy's running down, and your blood sugar's all over the place, and your hormones are all over the map, then all you can do is write rubber checks giving anything to anybody else. You can't love anybody better than you can love yourself. If you figure out how to do that, let me know. So what does that mean? What do I need to do to keep Paul Chek healthy, vital, and strong as a contributor to his family, and a contributor to his own life, and a contributor to his society and his culture and the world? Well, I have to establish what that is. So my activities might be blogging, working with clients, returning email, having business meetings, whatever that is. So somewhere in here I've got to figure out, well, when am I going to work out? For me, Paul Chek, it's usually about right there. And I'm usually blogging right about there. And I'm usually returning email about right there. And I'm usually coaching clients right there, and maybe as late as right there. And then I'm doing paperwork right there. So you see, I have got to make sure that I get a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, and I got to get my workout in there, and I usually get some Tai Chi in there, and I almost always get it in right there. So there I have a sense of what I need to do to keep me healthy, when I'm going to eat, when I'm going to do my working in, when I'm going to do my working out, And once you know what it takes to keep you healthy and vital, my advice is that you do something most people don't do, and that is build your workday around you. Work will always be there. You might not be if you screw this stuff up. Believe me. Okay? So, I before we. Exercise. If you're tired, don't work out, work in. If you can't improve on your last workout by 1 to 3%, you don't belong in a gym. You're not going to be in there training, you're just going to be making friends. Get out there and do some working in. When you can work out honestly and effectively, do it. Balance that out. So here, the we, as I said, that's all about everybody else. I can share with you because I eat well, I do my Tai Chi, I do my very best to manage my schedule. Now, inevitably, you get booby traps and surprises. But hey, guess what? The more consistent and stable you are in your base rhythm, the more energetic reserve you have to handle the little surprises that come your way, and you know they're always going to be there. So by being consistent, you have the juice to make it through the day and accept the surprises of life. But by not having a base rhythm, you get to live in chaos, and when chaos arrives, it's chaos on top of chaos, and as they say, shit happens to people, man. And I'm hoping it won't happen to you, because a personal date with someone like me is not cheap, seeing doctors isn't cheap, buying drugs isn't cheap, and living incorrectly isn't cheap, and it hurts. So have a great day. Think about the base rhythm, look to the resources I suggested, and I will come back with an interesting little video on how to survive in the modern world and ground yourself to decrease electromagnetic pollution and do some other cool tricks in my next edition.